Let's talk about some of the smaller clauses that you might run into, or that actually you will run into. You will run into usually an indemnity clause. Oh boy. Attorneys, tell me how to spell this thing. Indemnity? Is that right? Indemnity? That's a big word for, correct me if I'm wrong, but it basically just means who gets sued. Meaning, an indemnity clause means you promise that this book is your own and you are not plagiarizing it. You promise that, that you are not using anyone in it in a way that you could be sued for libel. You are basically doing everything legal and on the up and up. And if you aren't, we can pass the buck along to you. And if we get sued, it's you getting sued. Basically, it's a standard thing in a contract like this. But it is something to be aware of, yeah.
Is that the clause that puts like the little phrase in every book that's
Any characters are fictional or used fictitiously? Yes, that thing. So, you also have kind of a copyright clause. All this should basically say is the publisher will register a copyright for the work in the author's name. For whatever reason, that's what the publisher does. It costs them like $50. They will register the copyright for you. The really bad contracts exist out there which try to grab on the copyright, in which they say the copyright in characters and series title will be owned by the publisher, and that is something to be very careful of. Granted, if it's something like 39 Clues, where they've come to you and said, we're doing this thing, do you want to be part of it? Then you're entering into a work for hire agreement, and that will be expected. For example, my contracts with the Harriet explicitly state the copyright belongs to Bandersnatch, which is their company. They don't belong to me. And it spells out the characters and situations and things belong to Bandersnatch and not to me. You would have the same contract if you were writing for George Lucas.
So then you can't actually write your own, like you couldn't write anything.
I could not write my own Wheel of Time books. That is correct. And that would be very standard. It is not standard if it is what we call an author property that you have brought to the publisher yourself, and it will be most everything that you guys will work with. Yeah.
What about like creative copyrights, like Creative Commons, like I know you did with Warbreaker?
Right. That you have to approach with the publisher directly. They don't love it, I'll tell you that. But various publishers are going to have their own quirks for this. For instance, Baen has no problem with it. And in your Baen contracts, you will probably be required to put your book up, not required, but strongly, heavily suggest that you should put your book up on the Baen Free Library, where they put up on their website all the first books of every author's series, basically, for free to read an ebook to try and get people hooked on the series. And they rotate those sometimes too, so there's like other books. It's a great resource, and Baen also does this thing where if you belong to their subscription to their club, they've got this like publisher club that's actually pretty neat, and you get ARCs of all the books. You get the ebook to read early when it's put up on the they'll put it up early for you, and then they'll send you an ARC, and you're paying whatever a certain amount a month to just get all of this. So it's kind of a nifty thing they do. And I don't know how that looks in the contracts because I haven't ever signed a Baen contract before. Baen is an interesting company. Tom Doherty, who runs Tor, owns 50% of it, but is a silent partner because it's his competitor. So, all right. What else am I missing? I forgot to bring my contracts in to look at them, but I think we're hitting all of the big things. We'll go into the littler things like there will be a due date. There will be a reversion of rights. Let's see. Is there anything else in these things? Due dates, by the way, in publishing, tend to actually be pretty flexible. They put this on here, but they're used to working with crazy creative authors. And if missing your due date is a bad thing, but it happens all the time. So don't stress it too much. As a newer author, it serves you very well to hit your due dates, so you can have a publication date. But yeah, oftentimes in their offers, they'll include a marketing plan. And you can get that into the contract if you want to. Marketing plan is, they're required to send you on a book tour of a certain number of cities, and you can actually get it written into there that they're required to do that. Or they're required to do such and such thing or such and such. All of this stuff, you can get anything in the contract that you want to. The question is the push and shove, whether it's worth what they're going to require of you to put it in there. But you could get a marketing plan. When they make offers, they love to throw out marketing plans, and then they love to not put them in the contracts because they talk big in marketing plans. So, yeah.
Kind of a tangent to that, tangent question to that. When they fly you around, do they?
They pay.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
my question is, like, do they fly you first class, and why not you? Or is it kind of?
How much are you earning them? There are authors who have in their contract that the publisher is required to fly them first class wherever they go. I'm not going to say if that's me because I am forbidden by contract to talk about whether or not I get certain perks that other authors might not get.
Does that mean there's a non-disclosure agreement portion of this?
There can be NDAs in here. There can be NDAs in here. But certain authors require first class. You're better off not asking for it until you're a big enough deal that they won't laugh at you. And when you're a big enough deal that they won't laugh at you, then they're probably offering it anyway. But yes, they do pay for everything. They put you up in hotels and things like that. And there can be NDAs in here. There's an NDA in my Robert Jordan contract. There's not NDAs in any of my other contracts, really. But there are certain things that, I've asked to not make public knowledge in my contracts. And you may have things like that. Like if your royalty rate gets boosted up, they may say, don't tell everybody. And so stuff like that could exist in there. There are certain perks you can get where they're like, don't tell everyone else this. Remember what reversion of rights is? We talked about it already. It should spell out when you get the rights back so you could sell them again. All right? All right. A few things on short story contracts, just in case you're interested. Usually what they're buying is first serial rights. It could say first North American serial rights. It could say first World English serial rights. Basically, they get a chance to publish it in their magazine first, and then they will usually have an exclusivity period. Meaning frequently it's 12 or 18 months. They get to have the story exclusively for that time, and after that you can sell second serial rights if you want, or second, third, fourth, fifth. I mean, if a magazine wants to do reprints, there are some that do reprints. You'd be free to sell as a reprint to a magazine. You'd be free to put it up in your website. You'd be free to put it in an anthology. All of these things after that exclusivity period. Usually they're going to pay a certain number of cents per word. 1 cent on the low end for kind of more semi-prozines and things, up to the highest is usually around 25 cents per word. That's awesome. 25 cents per word, yeah. For some really professional publications, I think Tor.com pays 20 cents or 25 cents a word. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's one of the other magazines. Tor might pay the standard 5 to 7. But 5 to 7 is what you're going to see mostly for the prozines. A couple of them, they'll try to make a big splash by offering this, but those will usually be web-only sorts of things. Like I think sci-fiction was paying like 25 cents a word back when it existed. And so, that's what they'll do, and they will usually say up to, a certain amount, up to $5,000. And then it could be 20 cents for up to $5,000, and then after that, 1 cent per word thereafter, or to just a maximum of $5,000, and anything after that, you just get $5,000 for it. Am I missing anything in that's different in short story contracts?
Occasionally they'll ask for electronic if they have the
Oh yeah, they will ask for electronic. Very common to ask for electronic. But usually their electronic rights The clauses will require that it be bundled, meaning they don't get to sell the short story by itself from you. They have to bundle it with the rest of the magazine. They can sell the magazine in electronic form for a fee, but they can't sell just your book. That's not always the case, though. For instance, Tor.com has the right to sell the story on its own, but Tor.com puts them out for free. So it's not big money when they then put it on Amazon and kick back 25% to you or whatever. All right. That's basically your contract thing, what you should be looking at when you're signing a contract. Go immediately to make sure they're not grabbing too many of your rights or your copyright. Make sure the advance is reasonable. Not paying advance is usually a sign of a somewhat newer publisher, how shall we say. Joshua says he won't work with anyone that doesn't pay in advance, period. They've got to pay in advance. He won't even sell, like, to my friends, miniatures rights without making them pay $100 because he says they have to put advance forward to make sure that they're serious. That's one of just Joshua's laws. Pay us, even if it's just a little bit for simple rights, pay us and we'll listen. If you come to us with no money, then, yeah, you're getting our name for free attached to your product. So be wary of that.